The chair now recognizes Mr. Goldman from New York for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I thank our witnesses for coming in today. I want to focus a little bit on Ukraine and the money that the United States Congress has appropriated to support our Democratic ally against an illegal, unwarranted, and global-altering war of aggression by an authoritarian dictator, Vladimir Putin. And I want to focus a little bit on the oversight, especially with you, Mr. Mansfield, because I think on both sides of the aisle, we very much want to ensure that there is strong oversight and accountability to ensure that the money that Congress has authorized and appropriated in support of Ukraine is used as it is intended to be used. And I would note that Inspector General Storch testified earlier this year to the Armed Services Committee that the situation in Ukraine is fluid and calls for continuous agile oversight. Mr. Mansfield, can you describe the OIG efforts to execute that agile oversight?
Yes, thank you for the question. First, I would say that we have partnered with our oversight, with the oversight community writ large. So between the State Department, the Agency for International Development, and the Department of Defense Office of Inspectors General, we've formed a working group where we collectively come together to talk about what meaningful oversight should be occurring within Ukraine related to the funding being provided and support. For the DoD Office of Inspector General, to date we've issued four reports and 7 advisories related to anything from tracking of the funds appropriated or supplemental funds to the department's processes and State Department's processes for tracking and monitoring, end-use monitoring of military equipment that's been provided. We have 18 ongoing projects related to anything from training of Ukrainian forces to execution of the funds provided under the supplemental appropriations. And we have another 3 projects right now planned, but there's more in the works as well.
And has Ukraine generally been cooperative with DoD's efforts to do the tracking and oversight that you just described?
So from our perspective at the OIG, we've gotten cooperation from the Department of Defense in terms of our oversight of their efforts to oversight the Ukrainians' use of the equipment that's provided. So we haven't had any difficulties there yet.
I appreciate that, and I thank the department broadly for having such robust oversight. I think it is often mischaracterized, and it's important for you to recite all of those efforts, as you just did, in terms of oversight. We are dealing right now, as one of my colleagues on the other side, or Mr. Frost mentioned, about we're dealing with the NDAA and appropriations and support for the department. And one of the things that has become a very hot-button issue, sadly, is support for Ukraine. Many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle seem to fundamentally misunderstand the purpose of our support to Ukraine. Ukraine is a democracy. Russia is an authoritarian regime that is trying to conquer and overtake a democracy. And when we talk about America first, we're talking about America's national security. And if my colleagues don't realize that the support of a robust democracy and robust democracies broadly around the world do not relate to our national security, then they fundamentally misunderstand global engagement and foreign policy and what makes us safe here at home. I was very disturbed to see that the chairman of this committee, not the subcommittee, but the committee, went on television last week, I believe, to say that President Biden is scared of conducting oversight of what is going on in Ukraine, and I appreciate you outlining all of the extensive efforts that the department is doing to provide that oversight. And I would just urge the department to continue to do that oversight, and I'd urge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle not to defend and take the side of a dictator in Vladimir Putin trying to overtake and dominate and conquer a democratic nation that needs our support. And it's sadly become somewhat of an odd political football, But the notion that we would not support a democracy at war around anywhere in the globe is completely counterintuitive and counterproductive to our own national security. So I thank you all for being here, and I yield back.